Alright, hello! This is a video about autism and sensory issues. I guess like not only issues, like what's the right term? You're either a sense seeker or avoider. It has to do with the five senses, and this is one of the things that comes with being autistic is sensory sensitivities. I guess that would be a better term for what's going to happen in this video. So if I'm not mistaken, it is World Autism Awareness Week this week that I'm posting this. Maybe that's what's happening. I think that's what I'm planning on doing. And I just basically decided that I wanted to do a video about my personal sensitivities. I have a little note on my iPhone because I'm so prepared. I just made different notes about my personal sensory sensitivities, I guess. I don't know what else to call it. Everybody that is autistic, I would say, has something along these lines, but everybody's is a little different, or not even a little, probably completely different than the next person. And just because some autistic person, you know, hates bright lights doesn't mean that every autistic does, and maybe they have more of an issue with this kind of food and they like this food, but then the other person likes this food, and everybody's different, and these are just my personal ones. I think a lot of times people will interpret it like, oh yeah, when I was little I was a picky eater too. Like, how is that also an autistic trait? But it's a lot more extreme when you're autistic. Sensitivities to things, sense-wise, I keep on using those two words. It's basically a lot more extreme than your neurotypical person's sensitivities to things. I mean, at least a lot of mine were excused, or not excused, but just shrugged off, because you can say, oh, every kid's a picky eater, you know, or something like that. They're different, and yeah. I mean, you'll understand, I guess. But if you have sense issues, let me know yours. I'm curious, because I find myself still finding things in myself that I'll be like, oh my gosh, wait, I think that's like a sensory thing or something that I did as a kid, and I never realized that it was until I just realized one the other day, and I was like, oh my god, that's blah blah blah. So the first one that I'll start off with is smell, and basically I have no sense of smell. My sense of smell is horrible. It's so just awful. I don't realize if people smell bad. I don't realize if people smell good. I basically don't smell candles. Food doesn't really have a smell to me. I never know if I smell, so I'm probably walking around smelling like shit. The only thing that I can smell, that I can detect from a mile away, is cigarette smoke. I'm hypersensitive to cigarette smoke, but that just might be my lungs are because of my asthma. But that's the only thing I can smell, and that's the last thing I want to smell. Sometimes this is a good thing. There was a hallway in high school that was notorious for smelling horrible, smelling like dead cats are rotting in the air conditioning ducts, and it didn't smell like anything to me. I had no idea it had a smell to it until my sophomore year, my junior year, when a teacher was like, yeah, the smell of blah 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 hall, and I was like, it smells? Little did I know. So that's a really big plus with having a bad sense of smell. And also, I don't get to enjoy candles. I don't get to enjoy shower gels, perfume. I don't get to enjoy any good smells. I've never heard of anybody who's autistic not having talking about smell. So maybe this doesn't have anything to do with autism, but maybe it does. I don't know. And the thing is that my dad has a hyper acute amazing sense of smell, so this isn't a it runs in the family kind of thing. This is a Shayna randomly is the only person in the family who doesn't have a sense of smell. The next one is sight. The common thing for autistic people is sensitive to fluorescent lights, and I've never really noticed that necessarily, but what I am so sensitive to and have been since a child is sunlight, direct sunlight, being outside. I have to have sunglasses on. Absolutely have to. I am so sensitive to it. I cannot open my eyes to be able to take a picture even for a second. It is impossible for me. I did a shoot when I was about 5. It was outside, and I couldn't keep my eyes open. It was so bad that they literally were like, let's just give her sunglasses because like she's like this in every photo, and I was so angry at myself because I was trying so hard to like open my eyes, but it's not gonna happen. I need sunglasses. I'm also just like blind, but I think that's just running in the family. Also, I can find myself like being in the dark a lot and like doing work. Let's say I was like at home, I would be doing homework and my dad would come in and like turn on a light because all of the lights are off, but like I didn't notice. Or like just the other day I was at work and like the sun set and like no lights were on in the office, my office, the entire day, and I didn't notice. And somebody came in and like turned on a light and I was like, oh, I kind of enjoyed the darkness a little bit more. Just like it's less straining on my eyes maybe. I don't know. So the next one I'll go into is taste. I've always had a hypersensitive tongue. I also don't know if this is because of autism, but I mean, that's the only explanation I can give it. My tongue is actually really weird looking. I'll show it to you right now. So while I'm talking, I'll probably put in like a really awkward shot of my tongue, but it literally looks insane. It's crazy. Like it looks like it's like pieces of it are about to fall off, and it's like always has like a white or yellow thing in the center, and like the ridge down my tongue is like extreme. And it's always been like this. It's always been weird. It always has weird things along the side. Always is weird. I don't know if this is an autism thing, but I like can't eat anything sour. Like I can't. I went to Utah as a young child, like a trip. I had like I think it was a Sour Patch like Sour Patch Kids. I had those, which as we know, those aren't sour. But I had some of them and my tongue like swelled up. And it was so bad, and I could not eat properly or talk properly the entire trip. Days went by because I ate these measly, barely sour candies, and it was so like that it like freaked out. I don't know if that's an autism thing, but I just assume like I have a hypersensitive tongue. I don't know. But this is something that I think is. So a lot of autistic people will like flap their hands or do stuff like that. I don't know if I did that. I don't think I really ever did. But what I did do was suck on my right thumb all the time, like fully just like suck on it for years, constantly. I did it so much that my orthodontists were worried that I was like pushing my front teeth so much forward that like they were almost positive that I was gonna have to get braces like really soon because of how much like my thumb pushed out my front teeth. A lot of autistic people will seek out like I don't know what to call it, but they'll wanna chew things. I don't know what it's called, but like there's this thing called like chewy gem that I've heard of, and I probably should get one of those, honestly. So basically I stopped sucking my thumb. I finally like I had to wear a band-aid on my thumb every single day for like years, so I would stop doing it. And it was definitely like a fidgeting thing, or it was like a stim. What it was for me was a stim, but like we didn't know that at the time, of course, so we just knew that like this is a weird thing to do around kids. You're about to be in elementary school, Shayna, you should stop sucking your thumb. Fast forward to about a year and a half ago, before all this autism stuff happened, I was at the dentist and he was like, you like really grind your teeth. Like, did you know that? And I was like, no, I've never been told that before. I grind my teeth? What? And he was like, yeah, like it's really bad. Like you've shaved down some of your teeth. Like do you do it in your sleep? I have like, I also have like major jaw tension and blah, 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 blah. And he was like, you need to get a night guard. And I was like, okay, well, I don't want, you know, anything bad to happen because I'm grinding down on my teeth. I had no idea that I do this. So I get the night guard, and what winds up happening is that I just bite down on it more. I bite down on it so intensely that I wake up every morning with these intense jaw aches that will move to a headache later in the day because of the way that the night guard is. It was just on my bottom teeth and it was like thicker, and it was like not really squishy, but like almost kind of the texture of what I would assume a really hard chewy gem is, which if you don't know what a chewy gem is, it's like, I don't know, a website that I don't really know much about it, just like things that you can chew, like basically, like that's what it's made for. It's made for people with autism that like need to chew. I've stopped using the night guard just because it was causing me such intense jaw aches and pains, but I've noticed since then, because like when he said that I ground my teeth, I had no idea. I never would have guessed that. Like I kind of doubted him at first because I was like, grind my teeth, what? But now that I'm aware of it, I really grind my teeth like all the time, like 24/7 if I am not aware of it. And like when I was just tapping today and I was like grinding my teeth, like concentrating and like doing weird stuff with my mouth to concentrate and stuff. And then the biggest thing was texture of foods. Oh my god. I was so picky as a kid, but not in the way that like most kids are picky. I was like, fuck yeah, broccoli is awesome. What I absolutely could not deal with, and I still cannot to this day, is the texture of things like, and I can't even think about it that much because I hate it so much. Like whipped cream is my #1 nemesis in this world. But anything kind of similar to that. Sour cream, mayonnaise, cottage cheese, pudding, jello, gelatin, those are all big ones. I mean, I'm vegan, so it's not like I would eat these things anyways, but even the non-vegan versions, if it's the wrong consistency, can kind of give me the heebie-jeebies. But no matter what the whipped cream is, I will never eat it. Like frosting, I was a weird kindergartner who gave up my cupcake because I could not deal with the frosting. Like the texture of it is vomitous to me. Like I was in a sophomore year French class and I just heard the noise of a whipped cream spray can and I nearly vomited. Like spray cheese, it's so, I can't deal with it. And I had this memory of my mom being like, oh well, like we used to have homemade whipped cream and so it wasn't like processed, because she thought that I didn't like it because it was like a processed food. And I was like, I still don't want to try. And I felt guilty because like I really did not want to eat it, and I felt like I was being so irrational as a child. In reality, it wasn't because what my mom thought, which was, oh, she just doesn't like it because it's processed and it's fake, when in reality it was just like, I don't care what it's made out of. If it's that texture, I won't go near it. So that's always been like a huge thing, and like it still is. And then something that I've gotten over was I used to hate as a child like crunchy, tasteless vegetables, basically was what I called it. Like I wouldn't eat lettuce, I wouldn't eat cucumber, zucchini, any vegetable that's like green and crunchy, I could not deal with. And I hated it, and I finally slowly got over it, thank God. Now that's like all I eat, honestly. I started with like spinach because I could deal with spinach because it didn't have that crunchy texture, and then I could deal with certain leaves of the lettuce, like the darker green leaves, and now I'm finally able to deal with like all parts of the lettuce. But still, a little part of me to this day is not the biggest fan of like that center part of the lettuce that's like more white and crunchy. I'm still looking for those dark green leaves, not gonna lie. But I'm not as grossed out to it. Whipped cream will forever be a thing that I run from. Okay, so the next thing is hearing. And that is my biggest one, and just the biggest one, basically. I have an auditory processing disorder. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I want this to be a whole video in itself, like all about my auditory processing disorder. So I'm gonna make a whole other like shorter video, but still just talking about that. But I did have a speech impediment when I was younger. I couldn't say my R's, I would say them like L's. And I just am gonna tell you this really funny, I don't know, story of something that happened the other day when I was at work. So there was a while when I was like picking up a lot of phone calls. Like luckily I'm not doing that as much right now, which is I'm very thankful for. But I have a lot of trouble understanding people in phone calls. Like of course, if you know anything about auditory processing disorders, or if you're just a normal human being, hearing people through phone calls can be really hard. So this girl was like on the phone and she was like, I'm looking for Lavin, I need to talk to Lavin. And I was like, Lavin? And I was like looking at the list of people that work there, and I was like, give me 1 second. So I like went into the room and I asked the people that were there, I'm like, is there a Lavin that works here? Like there's no such thing. And I thought she had the wrong number. I was like, this girl's crazy. So I go back and I'm like, I'm so sorry, nobody named Lavin works here. I was like so confused, and she was getting really upset with me. Like people do not like repeating themselves. Like that is, if you ask somebody to repeat themselves, they fucking hate it. Like they think that you're not listening to them or something, when in reality like you're staring at them, or you're like on the phone, like there's nothing else for you to do. All you're doing is fucking listening. And they get so mad when you ask them to repeat themselves. People get like hostile. They're like, ugh. She was literally like, ugh. And I was like, I can't hear you. And listen, I'm not rude. I'm literally like, oh yes, what do you need today? Oh yes, of course. Okay, I just wanted to know, do you mind repeating that for me one more time? I'm so sorry, do you mind? Like that's literally how I fucking talk. Like I talk like a child. So I get back and I tell her like there's no Lavin, and she starts getting really upset, and I was like, well, I can leave a message for you. And so I was writing down the name and I wrote Lauvin, and I was like, do you mind spelling that for me? And she was like, yes, L-O-B-I-N. And I was like, Lobin. And I was like, Robin. And I looked down the little list and I see that there's a Robin. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Did you say Robin? I misheard you this whole time. And she goes, yes, I was saying Lobin. I was saying Lobin. My ass still heard that R as an L. And she was saying Robin the whole time. But my ass can't distinguish R's and L's still to this fucking day. Something that I got over in 6th grade. Yeah, it took me till 6th grade to be able to say my R's. But I still fucking will hear R's as L. I literally heard her say Lobin, even though I knew what she was saying was Robin. I still heard it as Lobin. So frustrating, and she was so not having it with me. Like, she was so fucking over it. She was so annoyed. I felt horrible, but I was trying. That was like a really hard moment too, especially because like I still hadn't like fully gotten my autism diagnosis, and I didn't really know what was going on, and I just felt stupid, and I didn't really like put 2 and 2 together that the reason why I couldn't understand her was because of the whole RL thing still exists in my brain. And that was crazy because that's something that I thought like was completely done for it and all that kind of stuff. So last one is touch. I'm definitely a touch seeker. Definitely fidgets like no other, okay? I used to be so ticklish as a child, and it dawned on me the other day that I was like, oh my God, it wasn't that I was ticklish, it's that I fucking hated the like touching thing. And I thought back to so many instances when like people thought they were like playing with me and they would tickle me. Like I got tickled all the time as a child, all the time, constantly, like 24/7. Like we had a neighbor that was my dad's best friend that like he was known for just tickling me, and it was like torture basically for me. So what would happen is like somebody would tickle me and I tell them like, don't tickle me, and like what would wind up happening was I would get so angry at them for tickling me, I would like throw a limb and like punch them really hard. I would like kick them really hard, like because they would do something that was like a light touch and I'd be like, what the fuck? Ugh! And I would like just impulsively like lash one out, or like I would kick people a lot. Like I remember like a friend was like, lol, like tickling like when we were really little, and I would be like, if you keep on tickling me, I'm gonna kick you, and they'd be like, ha ha ha, yeah right, like I'm gonna kick you, and I'd be like, boom, and I'd kick them really hard like I said, and they'd be like, ah, what the fuck, and I was like, no offense, but like I told you I was gonna kick you. Well, I think that now, but in the moment I literally felt like the worst person in the entire world, and I felt horrendously guilty and ashamed and so confused as to why I just fucking lashed one out on this person. But now I know it's because they touched me like lightly, and I can't fucking deal with that. And I would also be like obsessed with like I had this blanket and I would always like touch this blanket or a stuffed animal. This sounds like a normal thing, right? Like, oh, kids like to feel soft stuff, right? This was intense. It was so intense that I was reading my baby book that my mom gave me of like my first 5 years, that she like made that a comment. And like she didn't make many comments, it was more of like a factual like book about like what happened when in my childhood and stuff. And she randomly put in like, loves to touch her blanket, loves to touch her bunny rabbit. Like that's how much of an intense thing I guess it was. I was like, wow, that's what you know down. And I was like, well, if it was that intense. Okay, so my camera cut out and I think I was talking about touch. So I think I was talking about the fact that I have a stupidly, like in some cases I can have a very high pain threshold. Like I think because I'm so hypersensitive to light touch, like I can deal more with like something really harsh. I also have like really bad sensory awareness. So I don't know if like you're autistic and like you relate to this or something, but like because of my high pain threshold and my horrible sensory awareness, bruises just show up and I don't even fucking know how they got there. Like I never know where I'm swinging my arm and I hit something and then I find out like 3 days later it's bleeding, or like I'll look down at my foot and it'll be bloody and I'll be like, when did that happen? I'll barely hurt myself but it'll scar and I'm like, it didn't even hurt, why is it? But then if you like come over and tickle me, I'm like, boom, like don't you fucking do I don't know. So yeah, I definitely seek like a heavier hand. Like I hate hugs that are like Oh my god, those are like the worst for me for so many reasons. Those are trash. They're not even really hugs, first of all, and also like, that's no fun. Like, hug a person, you know? Hug a person. That's what my sensory stuff is. I'm sure there's more that I forgot or just don't even realize, or maybe this stuff isn't even having anything to do with autism. I don't know, but this is just a video that I made that is coming to a conclusion now. Okay, bye.